Dana White Contender Series, Season 8, Week 2, just wrapped up. Let me give you the rundown on what just happened, what kind of prospects we might be having to look forward to in the UFC. It looks like that Cody Haddon just had too much for Billy Brand in the opening fight on the main card of this Dana White's Contender Series. Let me get this ad out of the way for you. It was a great, fantastic submission for Cody Haddon. He honestly outstruck Billy Brand. Billy Brand, like I talked about before, came in with just absolute fun fight ability on the feet. Throws great strikes with great power in every strike. Cody Haddon just picked his shots better than Billy Brand did, and he was able to knock him down, come forward, knock him down, and then submit him on the feet after using some absolutely genius IQ in terms of fight IQ. Most of these guys don't come in here with good fight IQ. He stood on the feet with him. He picked his shots. He had the better technique, the better straight shots coming down the middle from Billy Brand. He avoided damage overall, was able to walk forward, take him down, put him down with a shot, get on the ground, use a couple of ground and pound strikes to open him up, and ultimately sunk in the rear naked choke. Beautiful, beautiful work from Cody Haddon. This guy has potential. He's still young. Again, his only loss is to Steve Erceg, and we know how good Steve Erceg is, despite his recent loss to Kai Kara France. Things happen. You get clipped. Cody Haddon, coming into the UFC, is going to be fighting at the bantamweight division. Very, very excited to see what he's going to do. On to the next fight. Torres Finney was fighting Cam Rouston. Cam Rouston, really, really tall opponent. Torres Finney on the shorter side for a middleweight. Stocky, wrecking ball of a fighter. Came in there, got business done, used his grappling, used some of his heavy punches, overhands over the top to do some damage on Cam Rouston. Absolutely got the win, no question. But Dana, again, had the exact same criticism I had going into the fight, which was last year, Torres Finney put on a good performance, got a finish, but ultimately went back to the drawing board and didn't get any really meaningful fights on his record throughout the last course of the year. He came in, and Dana says he looked worse, but in all honesty, he looked worse because Cameron Rouston is just a really, really tall, rangy opponent, which is going to be difficult for Torres, regardless of who he's going up against. He could still beat guys that are tall, long, and lanky just because of the athletic ability he has, but ultimately, Dana White said he's not good enough for the UFC, called him out, made a big deal of it, said guys in the UFC would beat the shit out of you. I don't really disagree. I think Cam Rouston was so tall and just such a rangy, long opponent that it was really difficult for Torres to get anything off. I didn't really understand why Dana was ripping him so hard. The opponent was really the problem, and he overcame it. Do I think he deserves a contract? Absolutely not. I think he needs to go back to the drawing board, get a couple fights in, come back next year and get out a finish, get it done quicker than what he did. Put on a better performance for sure, but truthfully, it was the matchup that really hindered him a lot in this fight. And you can't say anything about that. It was the matchup and the fact that he needs to just keep improving. He's still young, only 25 years of age. He can get better. Come back, get a win, get into the UFC. He's got potential. Cortavius Romeus, the superb athlete fighting Michael Imperato, the jiu-jitsu specialist. Michael just had nothing for him. Cortavius was just beating him up, had him almost finished at multiple times throughout the fight, but he just couldn't capitalize. Dana White decided to take a chance on him, give him the freak athlete a contract. Like, good for Cortavius for getting the contract. He just doesn't deserve it. He didn't really show a killer instinct. Dana White even said it himself. He didn't show fight IQ. He just has really great athleticism, but he's already 30 years old. Like, that athleticism he's in his prime right now, and he's not going to be in his prime for much longer, so it's not like he's going to make a run up to the title, and then he's going to hit his prime. This guy's already into the middle part of his prime. This guy isn't going to really improve and become that much better. He's just an athlete, and that's it. I really disagree with Dana on this one. Good for Cortavius, but I don't agree with this at all. He's over 30 already. All he really has going for him is athleticism. He's not great fight IQ, as he showed. Not super impressive there. Just disappointed overall with Dana's decision here. I would have rather had Torres, even with a boring fight, get into the UFC than this guy. Let me just put it that way. Next up, the heavyweights. Kunaev came out and surprised the heck out of me. This guy had just been smothering, heavy-handed. Nothing really athletic going on here. Nothing impressive as of his last couple of fights. Hugo was the one that I thought coming in was the more athletic fighter. My God, did Kunaev prove me wrong. Knees to the bodies, striking great on the feet. His grappling looked really good. This guy's just... Is he going to go really far? Is he going to be the next Shamil the Blob Gaziev? Absolutely, yes. I think that's what's going to happen ultimately. But they always need good heavyweights, solid heavyweights that aren't just Tai Tuivasa types that come in off the street, don't train. This guy obviously trained. He's got some obvious technical abilities, just not the best athlete. What more can you ask for a heavyweight? You just need to get some heavyweights on the roster that can show some well-rounded ability as opposed to just heavy hands. I can't really say much about this. Would I pick him if I had to pick just two guys? Absolutely not. I'd pick Gustafsson and Haddon from the first fight. Good for Kunaev. Showed up, showed out, got the finish. Really, really impressed by him. Exceeded my expectations, for sure. On to the main event. Andreas Gustafsson versus Pat Pitlick. Pitlick, the Muay Thai fighter, the better technical fighter, obviously proved that in this fight. Andreas came out, started a little slower than he usually does, but honestly, over the course of the fight, just got into his absolute killer mindset. It was absolutely fantastic to watch. A great, fun fight. Pat Pitlick hung in there, hung tough in there as long as he could, but just could not take the damage that Andreas was putting out there. The elbows, the knees up against the cage, just a brutal, brutal finish there. Listen, this guy isn't going to go on to be some champion. I have no questions about that. He's not going to be a champion, but he's just a really, really fun fighter. I hope he can get into the UFC, make a couple of fun matchups, have some big upsets, some big underdog wins in there, and just make some money for himself, you know, make a name for himself in the UFC. This guy's really, really fun to watch, and you can't turn guys down like this. You always need to have fun fighters. They don't have to be the best guys. They just have to be fun fighters. That's really all we're looking for when it comes to the UFC. And so, at the end of the day, the Contender Series, full of some fun fights. Nothing super impressive in terms of ooh, that guy's got absolutely fantastic potential. This guy's going to be an absolute killer on the feet. He just kind of, all these guys, Haddon and Gustafsson, to me, were the guys out of all of them that showed that they have some potential to do some fun, interesting things in the matchup. Haddon's still pretty young. He could go on to do some good things. We'll see what happens with him. Torres Finney needs to get some wins, have 3 or 4 fights, just like Dana said, come back, put on a good performance, and get in the UFC because he's got the potential to do so. Cortavius did not impress me. Yes, he's an athlete, but did he show fight IQ and did he show dangerous finishing ability? Not exactly as I wanted him to. Kunaev surprised me, exceeded my expectations, put on a great performance. Good for him. I'm okay with him getting in. And Andreas Gustafsson, of course, like I told you, this guy is an absolute warrior, an absolute barbarian. He went in there, got business done. Shout out to Pat Pitlick for just hanging in there and putting on a good fight. Having Gustafsson wade through some fire with his shots, Gustafsson ultimately got it done and is in the UFC now. We'll see what these guys can do when they get to the big timer. Put them on some Apex shows. Let them fight in the smaller cage. Put on some good performances. Get a highlight reel going, and we'll see what these guys can do.